What is up, math superstars? In this edition of Mr. Peterson Presents, I'm bringing to you all the information you need to know about tax, tip, and discount. So when we talk about doing a discount, we're going to talk about how to do things mentally. And so we're going to give you some strategies on how to do that. So our very first step is we need to find 10% of a number. So in order to do this, we're going to move the decimal, is your fill in the blank, one place to the left. And so if we did 10% of 30, we put our decimal at the end and we move it one place value over. So we can say that our discount here, 10% of $30, is going to be $3. If we did 10% of 270, we take our decimal, dollar sign, sorry, but we put our decimal at the end, we move it one place over to the left, and our discount would be $27. But let's take 10% of $53. We have our decimal at the end, move it one place to the left, and our discount is $5.30. We got to make sure to add the 0 at the end for a place value for the hundredths place. Now let's go ahead and try to find a discount. If we have a 20% discount, so our first step is we find 10% of that number mentally, and then we multiply it by 2. So let's go ahead and give it a try. And so we have 20%. We put our decimal at the end, move it one place value to the left. So our 10% discount is $2. And we multiply that by 2 to give us a $4 discount for 20%. So let's do 20% of $320. And so when we do this, we take our decimal, move it one place value to the left. So where 10% discount is $32, but since we're doing it by 20, let's multiply it by 2 to give us a total discount of $64. Now let's get our 20% discount of $96. We put our decimal at the end, move it one place value to the left. So our 10% discount is $9.60. But when we multiply this by 2, it gives us a total discount of, so we got 20 cents, $19.20. So now let's go ahead and find a 5% discount of a number here. So our first step is we're going to go ahead and find 10%. And then we're going to go ahead and divide, is your fill in the blank, divide that number by 2 to cut it in half. So our first step here is let's take 5% of $10. We move our decimal place over one spot. So our 10% discount is $1. And then we're going to go ahead and divide it by 2, gives us our discount is 50 cents. And make sure you add the dollar sign in the front. And make sure you add that hundredths place value at the end. So what about 5% of $140? Move our one place value to the left, gives us a 10% discount of $14, but we're going to divide it by 2 to give us our discount of just $7. And last but not least, we have a discount of 5% of $35. So we move our one place value to the left. So our 10% discount is $3.50. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and divide that by 2. When we do that, that gives us a discount of just $1.75. So now we got a couple steps here to find a discount for 15%. So our first step is we're going to find 10%. This is step number 1. Then we're going to find 5%. Is step number 2. And then we're going to add those two totals together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the two totals first and then add them together. I'm not going to do all 3 steps in my head. So our first step here, let's take 15% of $5. First step is we're going to move the decimal place over to the left once. And so our 10% discount is 50 cents. And then we're going to go ahead and divide this number by 2. to get our 5% discount of a quarter. So you can see I have, this is my 10% discount plus my 5% discount. And that's going to equal a total discount of 75 cents. So now let's go do 15% of $32. We put our decimal point at the end, move it one place over to get our 10% discount. It's $3.20. So that's our 10. Let's label that as our 10% discounts plus we got to do our 5% discount. So our 5% discounts, $3.20 divided by 2 mentally gives us $1.60. And we're going to go ahead and add those two numbers together. So when we do that mentally, it gives us our total is $4.80 for our discount. So last but not least, let's go and do 15% of $44. We put our decimal at the end and move it one place value to the left. So our 10% discount is $4.40. We're going to go ahead and add our 5% discount to it. So our 5% discount is $2.20. And when we do our math, this gives us a total discount of $6.60. And so when we deal with tax now, tax is an additional amount of money that we pay that people are charged when they buy a product. And so this money is used by our government to do things like build roads, schools, and other public service. So we can figure out the total costs is what we're dealing with. So the total cost is, so when we're figuring out tax, this is going to be our equal sign. So we have the original price plus the tax. So here's the way that this is going to look. So our first question is, we're just going to figure out what the sales tax is. And other questions are going to ask you what the sales tax is and then add it all together for the new price. But for this example, we're just going to deal with what is the sales tax. So graphing calculator costs $90. And the sales tax is 5%. What is the amount of tax on the calculator? So the way to do this is we're going to take $90 and let's go ahead now and we have our decimal point. Let's figure out what 10% is. So 10% is going to be $9. So this is if we had a 10% tax, but thankfully we only have a 5% tax. So our 5% tax, we take our 10% tax and cut it in half. So our 5% tax would just be $4.50. So then if this question was asking how much money are you going to pay in total, so just as a way of example, we take our $90 and then we add our tax of $4.50. We make sure our decimal points are lined up. So we're actually going to pay $94.50 after at the cash register when tax is involved. So when we talk about discount, the discount is the amount of money by which the regular price of the item is reduced. So we're dealing with our sales price. So our sales price here is the original price times the discounts. So here's a way that this is going to look. So we're going to have this question here, and we need to figure out what it's saying, what it's asking for, so we can solve for what the question is. So Alan wants to buy a snowboard that has a regular price of $169. The snowboard is on sale at a 35% discount. How much money can he save? And so in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out our benchmark percents here. So we're going to use 20%, 10%, and 5% in figuring this out. So we're going to use these because we're going to do this all mentally in our head. And so we have $169 was our starting price. If we move our decimal one place value to the left, that gives us a discount of $16.90. So you can see I'm writing that right next to 10%. To get 5%, 5% is just $8.45. And 20%, I'm taking that 10% times 2 will give us $33.80. And to get the total discount, what I'm doing is I'm adding all three of these discounts together to get 35%. This is what we're looking for our discount. And so in doing this, you're obviously just adding up all the different place values. 8 plus 9 is 17, plus 4 is 21, carry 2, 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 6 is 11, plus 8 is 19, carry a 1, and we're left with a 35% discount, gives us $59.15 off this snowboard. But we're not done yet. What we're going to do is we need to figure out how much we're going to pay for our snowboard. So we got our discount. Let's go ahead and subtract that from our total. And so this gives us a grand total. As you're doing all the math, you can do it on the paper. You can do it right there on the paper. It comes out to $109.85. And so our discounted amount gives our brand new total is $109.85. So when we talk about a tip, this is a gratuity, is the official word, that's given in return for a service. So commonly we see tip at a restaurant, but you can see tips at all kinds of different places. So what we do is we add a percentage of the bill subtotal to the total amount due. So what you do is you leave a tip, usually 15%, for a waiter or waitress in exchange for bringing us food or drink at a restaurant and some really good service. And so a tip, this is a percentage, as your fill in the blank, of the bill subtotal added to the amount due. So our friend Mr. Worst, he took his class to Applebee's for lunch. The bill came to $152 for food and drinks. If Mr. Worst wants to leave the waitress a 15% tip, how much is the tip going to be? And so we need to figure out, we have this total of $152. We need to figure out 15%, so we can do 10% and 5%, and then add those together to get 15%. So let's go and figure out our 10%. We just move our decimal point over one spot, gives us $15.20. To figure out our 5% tip, for our 5% for the tip, comes out to $7.60. And let's go ahead and add those together to get 15%. So when we do that, it comes out to $22.80. So our tip total is going to be $22.80. So what we're going to do is in the next couple questions, I might ask you how much do you have to pay in total after you figure out the tip. So when you do that, you do $152 plus $22.80 gives us how much we pay at that restaurant is $174.80.